Mr. Rockman has a presentation from our ceramics class to the Board of Education, as well as some recognition for some of our students all national level.
We have from our ceramics program, which is one of the most outstanding on Long Island, if not in New York State. And we have a new teacher who's taken over the program, Mr. Osmond. And he's asked me to make a presentation from our students here to members of the Board of Education from an individual piece of ceramic pottery. And so I am doing that. And the students' names who produced this work: Isabella Antilo, John Bernstein. We're going to pass these out. Chelsea Gross. We don't want to do Joseph Cuccinello. And finally, Dominic Damasco.
You guys really trust this. You guys do awesome work.
I have to tell you, having inherited the program, I've been in this is one of the most outstanding programs. We are the program in general. What a pleasure to be part of it.
Very fortunate.
And I think you can expect. And as a new person here, this is just a wonderful heritage for sharing. And we have also, we have the... Just be careful. Glad you could do this. The quality of work is very important. And I know that our new teacher has a legend to follow, Mr. Mascarella, that he's really taken us around.
Thank you so much. And thank you for filling in for me.
Thank you so much, and thank you for that wonderful welcome. And I know we've had many students selected for All-State, but we have, particularly today, 2 students that we'd like to honor that I know are here. Our one student who was selected for All-National, which you can imagine is the most prestigious award you can imagine for us. Anna has, I just can't tell you the competition that you have to go through in order to acquire this and to be selected. It's not just New York State, but it's every state in the union that sends students to All-National, and it only happens once every 3 or 4 years, so it really is an honor. And I'd love to present her. Anna. From the school district to you, and just in recognition of the outstanding job. I wish I had known you longer. Mr. Lasher sends his regards. He can't be here tonight, but it really is just a wonderful, wonderful honor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And Darren Dutton, who was selected for not only for New York All-State Wind Ensemble, but as an alternate for New York All-State Jazz Ensemble. That's also an unprecedented honor for the school district, and it's a reflection of all the things that start in the elementary school in 3rd and 4th grade, and they come to fruition in the high school. When you have so many students selected for these organizations, it really is an honor. So I'm just happy to be here, happy to be able to represent you folks, and just carry on the traditions that have been developed here for so many years. You should be very, very proud.
Thank
Darren.
you. Thank you.
Everyone else is here. Do you mind?
How are they?
Yeah.
Oh, they don't show up.
All right.
Just kidding.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Okay, you just announced it. Is Giovanni Santiago here?
No.
Robert Alvarado? Sarah Missler? Congratulations, sir. Sorry. Gabriella Perticone? Congratulations. And Gabrielle Cassio? Congratulations to all of you. It really is an honor to represent you folks, and you people are the ones who deserve this. So, congratulations.
On three guys, 1, 2, 3.
Next, I want to introduce someone who has been up here before, Coach Alex. This year, he is the 2018 Ed and Alice Coop Outstanding Coach in Suffolk County Coach of the Year Award for swimming and diving.
At this time, I'd like to recognize a very special young man. One of our senior captains this year, Dylan Maseko. He has just recently been the recipient of the News 12 Scholar Athlete Award, which is airing tonight. So if you go home, you can go home and watch News 12 for sure. He is also the 2019 valedictorian for Connecticut this year. I can be up here for hours talking about Dylan, but it is obviously evident that Dylan is a great student. More importantly, Dylan is a great citizen of this community. He's a hard worker. He's dedicated to Connecticut, the swimming program. Just to kind of put it in perspective for you, Dylan trains on a Saturday 4 hours, from 6 to 8, 8 to 10. Takes 3 hours of his own time to work with our community program, the Connecticut Swim Club, for 3 hours teaching the young kids swimming lessons. So Dylan at the pool for 7 hours. I mean, what kid does that? Really? He's left a tremendous impact. He's been, like I said, a great leader to our underclassmen. Dylan doesn't work at 100%. He works at 110%. In anything he does, obviously in the classroom and athletically. So we could not be more proud of this young man right here.
Tell us where he's going to be
This weekend, he'll be representing Connecticut at the New York State Men's Championships, which will be held at the Aquatic Center in Nassau County. Thankfully, we don't have to go to Buffalo, where this meet usually is, and we get to sleep in our own beds, this weekend.
I haven't decided yet, but I'm looking to go to Binghamton.
Very good.
Again, I can't thank Dylan enough for being such a great leader, captain this year. He led our team into a second place finish at the league meet and a third place finish at the county meet with over 20 teams in Suffolk County. So very, very proud of him. He'll be sorely missed, without a doubt, but I know he has left an impact for the underclassmen to kind of carry on tradition. So, Dylan, thank you very much.
Did you get it? Okay.
I just want to add, tonight here you have a lot of representatives from our team, and this is kind of the impact that Dylan has left on these guys, that they would not, they would be here to support their captain this year.
Come up then and be part of the picture.
Yeah,
Come on up, teammate.
I'd also like to thank, real quick, my assistant coach, Andrew O'Rourke, who has a tremendous impact on our team this year. Just a quick story about Andrew. Coach Andrew O'Rourke. Coach O'Rourke was one of my former divers back in the day, so I can't thank him enough for the job he does with the young men, especially our divers. Excellent, excellent job. And it's nice when it goes full circle, when your former swimmers, divers come back and now you're coaching together. So about 2 years ago at the state meet, we had a generation of coaches. My coach back in high school was there, myself, and Andrew. We took a nice picture of generation of coaches, so it was kind of really special. But Coach O'Rourke, thank you very much for
Thank you guys up there. 1, 2, 3. One more. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. It's very nice for you.
And our last presentation of the evening, I'm going to invite up Ms. Gail Santo, who is our Director of People Personnel Services, to recognize the volunteers from our Community Wellness Day. And I'll let her speak a little bit more about Community Wellness Day.
Yes, thank you. And I'd also like to introduce Mr. Brian Rinkle, my assistant in the project. And I'm going to ask that you hand out the trifold that was offered to the community should you not have been able to attend that. Okay, so for those of you that do not know, that we were fortunate enough to have a second wellness affair. This year we chose the Connecticut Public Library to house up to 35 vendors representing different components of health, nutritional, physical, social, emotional, and mental. But to say that, that's a structure that our intent was to provide service support to our students and also our community. But as we function as a community, we cannot move forward without the assistance of our students, and then also without the drive and exceptional coordination of our staff. So the 3 staff that have been working for more than 6 months with Brian and myself, I would like to recognize them. And then when I'm done speaking, we'll go through the events. So we can just stay on the first slide, and that would be great. Yeah, because we'll take that. Oh, that's right. Okay, so with that said, those of you that have had the pleasure, because Ms. Pisani and Ms. McNally were just whispering that many of the students that just stood up began in the elementary school, so they are here very proud of you. And Ms. McNally, let me introduce you and thank you, Larry McNally, for your efforts on Wellness Day. Okay, Miss Joanne Pisani from Duffield, thank you very much, my dear. And we've adopted Miss Christine Carino, who is also a high school special education teacher, but she has a very strong passion of giving and working outside of the box, and she has donated her time for more than a year. So I've invited her to attend today. So this is the leading force to the organization, and to those of you that spend a lot of time with attention to detail, you know to throw a good party, it takes a lot of work. So these ladies get that credit, and I can't thank you enough. And then, but then on the front line, we needed the support of our high school students. So we asked the social workers, extended an invitation, anyone interested. And as customary, up to 17 students volunteered their time that day. And they came as early as 10:30 in the morning, and they didn't leave until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So of the 17 attendees, I have 8 present today, I believe. So I'm going to call those names that are in attendance, and if I miss anyone, you'll just tell me, but I'm going by the list, and then I'll make sure everyone gets their certificate, okay? So, Shanna Dignan, are you here? Thank you, dear. So you can stand with us when we take a picture, okay? Excellent. And Sebastian Govia, or Gavia? He was first, and he was at the forefront of everything. And Carly Hokinson? Yes, where are you, Carly? Okay, she meant to come. Lauren Kennedy? Yes. Thank you, my dear. Brianna Migliano? Sarah Missler, again, my dear. Okay, and Julia O'Neill. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Please get your certificate. And if I just may read off the other 10 names that are not here because they put in the time, and then you might say, what did these young ladies and gentlemen do? They did everything to assist the community in coordinating and negotiating the Wellness Day. Well, first of all, you'll see in the pictures, 4 of them dressed as very edible fruit. So that's most important on the Wellness Day. And then they escorted the vendors to the tables. They wore name tags. They stood at the door and they handed out these very well-prepared trifolds so every community member understood what vendor was there and what area of the room to go to address their needs. What else? They served the wonderful healthy foods. So anything that was asked of them, I couldn't thank them enough because they gave of their time volitionally, and they are truly strong community members. And I very much respect and appreciate your work. So thank you again. The other names I would like to address, Madison Benevento, I thank you. And if you're here and I read your name, just come up, please. Jared Durkalaski, I believe. And Melissa Oz, Matthew Hollenberg, Saman Rahman, Grace Saravia, Olivia Snyder, and Ariana Thompson. So those are all that participate. Come on, Mr. Wrinkle. Okay, that worked.
Right here, guys, on 3. 1, 2, 3. One more. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so if I could just call your attention to the PowerPoint, and you'll see the work of the students and the staff in a very quick presentation. You'll get a flavor of what the day presented. No pun intended. Go ahead. These are our students, high school students. Again. vendor room, and the students are assembling to introduce the community. Healthy foods. Kerboom, physical engagement, interactive activity. And we'll take it one step further. You have to serve. And you can just get a sense. No speakers. Notice adults are participating as well. And I love the mom, the high school, and the elementary. The next. I'm sorry we didn't have the sound. I didn't realize that.
I know you have talent.
The next one. These are our mindfulness classes. Look at the varying ages. And all of the little ones trying to sit in their position. Adorable. Next. Continued mindfulness. These mindfulness sessions follow the Kerboom exercise classes. And then this one. Tell me if that doesn't melt your heart. Okay? And I think that represents, that was our goal of the day. And I think, thank you staff and students, we achieved our goal. Thank you. And that's the tea. Thank you. You can go.
Just first, on behalf of the student body, we'd like to congratulate all the students tonight on all of their various recognitions. As for what's going on right now with the student government as well as the student body as a whole, we just wrapped up the Valentine's Day carnation sales. Everybody seemed to enjoy a lot of feedback, positive from the students, so we're very happy about that, and we're looking to continue that into the next year. After that, we had February break, so nothing going on during then. And then as of right now, we're planning for our spring egg hunt, and then possibly some events closer to spring that I believe the freshman class is looking to organize, but those are still in the planning stages, and as of right now, that's about it.
Are they still doing the way remember what holiday it was? When I thought
Yes, that's the spring egg hunt. We actually have all of the children in the community who decided to attend. We have a bunch of plastic eggs that we have brought in, and we actually cover the entirety of the small egg with it. And then after a little bit of games and things like that, the Easter Bunny comes and visits and speaks and everything with all the kids. And then to wrap up the event, we actually have just one huge egg hunt ball that the kids in the gym go around and try to find all these eggs and collect prizes.
No, but you were the one where they came to your house.
Yeah, they used to go to your house.
Used to go to your house.
Ms. Catelli, I think, organized it.
I-
We ordered it, and they sent, like, the Easter bunny to your house. So when the kids woke up, am I right, Mylan?
Yeah, and then, because I did it one year, and then I woke up in all the little, I mean, actually, so the kids doing it, but
Yeah, As of right now, that's not a current plan that we have, but now I'm definitely going to bring it up because that sounds interesting enough that I should probably be a part of it. So I will definitely check and I'll get back to you next meeting.
You don't think I'm confusing with Halloween?
No, I think.
No, no, because Halloween,
I
yeah, we
think
can
it was
do
Easter.
Had to be Easter.
Yeah.
I think it was Easter.
I will definitely check.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
What is notification? Are you guys still doing the fireworks?
As of this year, we're not looking to do fireworks anymore. Possibly next year. It was just difficult this year looking for a day where there would be the least amount of conflict and anything else going on in the building. And we felt that if we were going to spend the time and effort into organizing an event like that, we wanted to do it where, one, the most amount of people could attend, and two, it would not cause any conflict with anything else going on in the building. So probably next year we'll look maybe do like a every other year at the fireworks.
Thank you.
You know,
Thanks.
Okay, so we're moving on to policy. I need a motion in a second, and then for the reading and for the approval of revised policy 5280.
Before we do that, where are the other policies that after Lee commented, we were supposed to add on?
They were sent to legal because there were different legal issues that they needed to look at to make sure that we were doing the right thing.
Not the little ones that we did, that had one or two words changed.
I don't think I got permission to put on.
Lee, Lee answered that.
I don't remember seeing getting permission to put on the next meeting.
Didn't Lee answer back? She needed time, and then she answered back again and said, okay, she's okay with it except for one thing, and then that was it.
So I didn't read it that way. I thought she wanted to look at it again at the next policy committee before we put it on.
And then let's set up a policy committee.
We have to, right, next week. It's next week. Okay.
And I'll check with you, make sure.
Okay, so now, what is policy 5280, and what changes were made to that?
This is the athletic placement policy that we spoke about at the last board meeting, to take it from being an arbitrary number to a percentage of the students who are allowed to play out.
So my concern with that is, again, that we talked about this a few years ago, decimating the middle school teams by everybody else.
It would really have to be an impact player who is going, and there's a definition of impact in the NISBA protocol. So it would have to be a student who is actually playing at an upper level that would not benefit by staying down at the middle school and would actually potentially be harmful if they stay at the middle school because they're at such a different level. And that's something that's actually clearly defined in the NISBA policy, which is what the Section 11 standards come off of.
This is something different.
Yeah, 20%, what is it?
Yes, that's what we discussed. That was the change.
There was only one change on it?
The change was to not have it be an arbitrary number of 3 and make it 20% of the roster. And also to reiterate that if there was no JV team able to be fielded, that all middle school players could come up and field the JV team, which was already on policy.
So have you all in favor on that one?
The question, since there's not all of the board members here, can you adopt it tonight's minutes? Is it unanimous?
What is this, the regulation change?
Okay, I thought you did it for the first reading, okay. First reading and adopt the revision, okay.
So it's the first reading, wait, what's your question, I'm sorry?
It's a first reading and an adoption, instead of a first and a second reading.
Or we're not having a second
what
reading?
your policy says, I have to look at your policy. Sorry, so, more than four, and majority vote.
You might just need unanimous vote. Yeah, right, yeah.
Right, so the majority, unanimity of the entire board, what is majority vote?
I wasn't sure.
I'll look at the policy. I don't think anything applies to all of that board right now. In this case, only have four.
Okay. So,
It should be
expecting a motion to adopt it as well?
Yeah.
Motion second.
He's expecting the first reading and adoption.
Yeah, yes,
So you want to start with a motion?
yes.
Okay, so I need a motion and a second for the adoption and first reading of this policy 5280. A motion? All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're moving on to, there's an adoption of the second reading, is that?
No, this is just a regulation, this is just for your edification. It's the changing for the non-resident student regulation. It's how we, it's a regulation change to a policy, so it's really just for your enlightenment and edification. There's no motion needed.
Okay, so we're moving on to new business. I believe, Ms. Nunn, you're taking fiscal stress and revenue.
Get this?
Oh, this is not it.
The controller puts out a measurement of a school district's level of fiscal stress. There are financial indicators, which are listed on the left. The district's fund balance, whether it has an operating deficit, its cash position, whether it has become reliant on short-term debt, which is our tax anticipation notes.
It's coming out.
Oh, right here.
Thank you.
The last item is whether or not a district has become reliant on its short-term borrowing, which would be tax anticipation notes, which we, like most, if not all of the districts, do borrow in anticipation of receiving tax revenue from the town, which comes in January, December, January, and then thereafter. But we pay ours down like we need to when we have the funding for that, and the funding is in. But if a district becomes reliant on what's meant to be short-term borrowing, that's over there. There are also environmental indicators that's going on in the district outside of our purview. Poverty, class size, teacher turnover, some of these are. the tax base, budget support, if there's an influx of English language learners. These are the kinds of things that can also put stress on the school district. These are the measurements for each of those two designations, fiscal and environmental. And you can see that we are again in the no designation category at 16.7, which is a good thing. I wanted to go over with you the revenue and the revenue budget as it stands so far, as it's projected to be. I'm projecting that we would have similar miscellaneous revenue and use of reserves as we have in, as we did last year. Appropriate fund balance is not defined yet until we have a more solid number for the expenditure budget. We will not be filling that amount in. New this year is using the debt service fund. We have a 1.2 million in there, which will help to reduce the tax levy. And you can see the comparison between our state aid projection from last year and our, which is the more final number. The state aid projection is after the budget is adopted by the governor and the legislation and it's final. Versus this year's, just the governor's proposal, not the final projection yet. You see a drop in the funding. So our state aid has declined. We'll see later the raise by taxes is the tax levy, and I'll walk you through the tax levy cap calculation. And then total revenues will be affected, of course, by what is appropriated from fund balance. Now, this just shows all of the categories of state aid that are on the executive budget proposal. So I'm showing you a different number here. This was the final state aid projection from last year. This is just the proposal, the governor's proposal that's in this box. But now on the next screen, I'm going to show you both numbers from the most current that we have, which is the 1920 governor's proposal. So you can see here, it's a greater difference because this is a more final number. That's a number as of January of this year, just as is the other number in this proposal. So we see a decline in OC's aid, we see a decline in high-cost, excess cost aid, and a decline in building aid.
What is high-cost excess cost here?
Those are for students whose special education costs exceed a threshold and are stacked and fall into a higher category. Correct? BOCES aid, that's an expense-driven aid. The more you use it, the more aid you get in a subsequent year. It's not 100% aid, it's not 100% of what you expend, but that drop also will be reflective of a drop in the use of that BOCES services. And what else is of note? Building aid has declined by $512,000. Building aid is changing. It's dependent on aid that might be thrown off of the state's funds. They amortize their building aid over the life, the useful life of improvements.
How would our transportation aid go up like that? Like what determines that the transportation aid goes up?
What would make transportation aid go up?
I mean,
Purchasing buses, things like that.
Thank you.
Okay, so here's the calculation. It's on the state controller's website. Here it is a little bigger. And I'm just going to walk you through the numbers that are associated with this calculation. I do want to once again point out that The tax cap is commonly referred to as being at 2%. That's only one portion of the calculation that's capped at 2%. It's the number that's linked to the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, which for this year was 2.44%, but that's the number that's capped at 2%. You'll see that on the following pages. There are exemptions, which I've spoken about before, such that if the retirement contribution rate were to exceed 2%, the portion that it exceeds 2% by could be factored in to increase the allowable levy. And also there is a calculation related to the capital exclusion. So if your expenses for capital work that you're doing, debt service that you're paying, if they exceed the building aid that you're receiving, you can tax for that difference. Because obviously you need to meet your debt service, your principal and interest payments for your obligations. I jumped to this slide. This talks about the exclusions. So the levy calculation begins with the prior year levy. So you see that at the top here. Then you see the tax-based growth factor. That is a measurement of the increase in, or the change, I should say, in the brick and mortar in the district. That never drops below 1. 1 means that you have no effect because you're multiplying by this number. And we're just very slightly over 1 for this year. Last year we were at 1. Then you have to add in your pilots, payments in lieu of taxes that you receive, that the district receives, because the town makes agreements with businesses to encourage them to come into the township, and that affects the taxable base. It's a reduced amount to encourage business to come in. Then you have to subtract out the capital levy from the prior year. Here's the 2%. This is the 2% Rick, that everybody thinks, commonly that you're capped at. But that's the line that's capped at 2%. Then you subtract out your pilot's receivable as projected for 1920. And we have for this year available carryover from last year because we taxed at 0%, so there is available carryover. Which can only be used this year, carry over 1 year. And then you come to the tax levy limit for exclusions. Then this is the capital levy exclusion I was speaking about before, where the cost of our anticipated capital expenditures from transfers to capital that have been done in 1819, added with what our principal and interest payments will be, and subtracted from that the offset of building aid. And what's also being subtracted from that is that debt service that I had shown you earlier of 1.232 million. So that's also offset here to bring the capital levy exclusion up to 988,000. That is added to the allowable levy limit right before it. Coming to an allowable levy limit of $127,570,378. I just like to have this last page up so that, and it's on the website too, you can see the next presentations that are coming. I was supposed to go last time, but we got someone out, so I have to stay. What will also happen today is Mr. Rich's presentation related to enrollment.
What is it that you're expecting
Consensus to tax up to the tax levy into the cap.
That 4.37?
Yes.
Sharon,
Yes.
how can we give you a consensus on that? It's so short. We just got this the other day.
Yeah, that's what happens when you cancel a board meeting.
Well, we were there.
Yeah, we had a board meeting
We
on that
did.
Friday.
My presentation was
Who
excluded.
cares what happened? That's where
Okay.
we're at.
Okay,
Can we get an extension?
no.
You need an answer today for Friday.
I would suggest that you just get a consensus to tax up to, not to exceed the levy
So,
limit.
but we're
So
not
that-
approving that 4.37, because I'd like to go lower, but, so we're not approving that. You're saying you come back with 4.37, and I have to approve it, is that what you're saying?
That would be ideal, but if you would give consensus to levy up to and not to exceed, so that we're not piercing the cap, that would be something that I would feel comfortable reporting. And when would you be able to make a decision then?
I don't know, can we make a decision today? I just learned a lot from you yesterday about it too.
Sure, I understand.
So last year we were at 0.
Right,
What is this year?
4.37. And you can see that 1.8 of that is because of carryover from last year, and 988,000 is because of the capital exclusion.
Sharon, it was 1.18 though, the increase between the last year and this year, the actual increase, correct?
Increase in what?
From
The
one-
budget,
The budget's budget number,
the expenditure budget, yes.
was it 1.18 or something like that? So with the 4.37, what would the increase in the budget be? Budget's budget.
The budget, the expenditure budget is not finalized yet, but I would estimate that
Approximately.
we would be, well, you know, that's later, that's coming later. I would say, you know,
Can you
yes,
give me an approximate guesstimate? I won't hold you to it, I promise.
193, 194. Don't forget, we have unsettled contracts, some which have already expired, so that's 2 years to make up for.
I also noticed in here too that going forward that you're going to be looking for capital projects.
To level off our debt service as well as our building aid.
What was
And the
that?
budget last year, I'm sorry, was 2.92%.
2.96.
All right, so with the capital projects, I understand that July, there's going to be a decrease in what state.
Yeah, which is the first time since I worked here, 11 years, that we've seen a proposal to potentially change building aid ratios and to change how much incidental cost would be allowable. For projects with a voter approval date of July 1 of 19 or later.
Do you have an idea how much of an impact that is? As
No,
far as-
no, and I've asked, you know, for financial experts, I've asked Professor Abusis, which are state lead planning specialists, and they sent me the law to read, and there is no indication as to what that may be.
So does that give an indication on?
It won't be positive. The change will not.
No, I know that, but if we, I mean, when the advisor gave us the $48 million to spend up to on the capital line, that would actually help your projections going forward, I'm assuming.
Yes, yes. In both ways.
Yes, it's going.
Flattening out debt service, flattening out wage, which is the goal, to not have spikes.
So the other question is when the board gets the appropriations, I guess then we can talk, if you talk about putting it at 4.37, not to exceed, and then when the appropriations come in, is it something that we use that time to allow
To allow for modification, absolutely. I can go in and modify the submission that I would make by Friday.
so then.
So it does give you the time that, you know, it's reasonable to ask for housing.
Okay, so then,
Have all the time.
what she's saying is that the university of Brooklyn is so when the appropriations come in, we can also look at,
We need a consensus from all three of us.
Not tonight.
you're not gonna have a consensus, Sharon, so what does that mean after that?
I don't know, I've never had things go this way.
So if we don't have a budget, what is the ramifications?
Or should have a budget, just, I think
No,
we're-
I'm just asking
It's a
a
number
question.
that
If we don't have a budget, okay, so I've asked that, and been told that means the board is not doing its job. That's the main job of the board.
It's not like we're not having a budget, we're just not agreeing on a number, the 4.37. So it's not like we don't have a budget.
Yeah, I'm asking for you to agree to tax up to, not to exceed, which really doesn't lock you in to an amount.
That's the impression
I think the fear is,
Can
you
we go
know,
lower than 4.37 and I would.
I think the fear is, you know, the resistance with the budget development guidelines with the, I don't know, just like we have to move forward.
I mean, if I heard you correctly, we're not married to 4.37. We're not exceeding that. We can obviously go down from there, but you have to give a number on Friday.
I would be comfortable reporting in that way,
Okay.
you know, based on you saying that to me,
Yeah, based on.
not to exceed,
Right, based on what
which
you.
actually isn't saying a lot.
No, exactly, so based on what you're
Right
saying.
now, we're not gonna see.
But now,
Still
let's say
a
you
high
come back with that number,
Right,
4.37.
then what do I do? Then I'm not comfortable with 4.37 and now, say you, like what Mark just said, say you actually go to that 4.37. Because we
No, you
voted
would
not
have to
to,
do that as part of the document budget.
so we can change it at that point?
Yes,
We can talk about it too.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yes, when you look at the appropriations, you can look at.
Historically, this has just been a more of a consensus to tax up to the limit.
Fine. I got this Saturday, so to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You should have gave it to me last meeting also. I'm not saying it's your fault, anybody's fault. But I'll okay that, what you just said, as long as we can adjust it.
Yeah, it's not really a steadfast commitment. But, you know, keep in mind, as you go along, you want to approve things, you want to add things, and you want to settle things, you know, there's that impact.
All right, so have we ever consensus on that?
I would like to give them some public comment first before I would commit to that. I don't, that's a big number. I mean,
We're not committing to it.
But it's, well, you are, you're saying up to it.
We still have to-
Can we ask the public for some comment on just this topic right now? Does anybody have any input on this topic here? 4.37?
Just go back to voting a little bit to this, give everybody respect to time, Steve.
And on the other,
So Sharon, with us at the zero last year, is that why you know, I kind of went on record last year, I didn't think it was a good idea.
With regard to your issue, your budget adoption is April 16, 2013. So you're just giving her permission to go up to that level? You would finally adopt the budget. This is not your final adoption. But it could go with fine, is that what you're saying? They make the
But
decision
we
as
can
to
also,
how
but we can still also say no.
we just ask the public for some comments.
All right, if anybody would like to speak, come to the podium and speak about this particular topic.
So, by
You gotta speak into the
by
mic.
agreeing that it could be as high as 4.3%?
Can't hear you.
Well, the consensus to tax up to an amount not to exceed can mean anything from 0 to 4.37. Not to be made by me, to be made when the budget is done. And this is math. It's the calculation that the control group requires for us to do.
It's high though. If
It
it
is
were
high.
to go to that, it's high.
Yeah, well, but averaging out over last year and this year, not really, because last year was 0.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
No, I know.
But you know, when people come up and they want to hear programs and they want to.
I understand.
Yeah,
I
and
do.
there's always more mandates,
That's just
there are
the
contracts that have to be settled, and insurance that goes up. Yes,
So,
and I do understand.
Well, I personally hope it doesn't go near 4 point, 3 or whatever, 4.3.
4.37 would be the budget-to-budget number, correct?
That's the tax levy cap calculation, 4.37.
And last year, the tax levy cap calculation was what? It wasn't 0 because we had a budget-to-budget increase. So what was the tax levy cap calculation last year?
It was over 3.
It was over 3% last year.
And that's just a factor of the math.
No, I know.
And I do
we
want
keep
to
saying
point
0,
out
it
though,
wasn't
if
0,
we do
so
not
I want to make that clear.
tax, we lose that capital exclusion. So next year's number, that comes out of there whether we tax for it or not. The starting number, you probably don't remember, but the starting number is the prior year levy. So if you do not tax up to the levy, that almost $1 million of the capital exclusion comes off of it, even though you didn't tax for it. So that means that your debt service, your capital improvements are eating into your program. Kind of
To
forevermore.
be honest, I don't understand most of that, but to me, it sounds like a big number. As a person, I can't speak for everyone, but, the tax situation here. So, I don't know, I hope you come in significantly lower.
Well, right now, that's the math, so that's not really me coming in, that's what
I don't
the
mean me
difference.
personally,
That's the difference in,
Numbers can't.
that's what the numbers come out to from the calculation that control has us do.
Change numbers.
Here.
That's it.
It is scary, but we see the state aid funding is going down, and if the tax levy is not enough to make up for that and support programs and, all the things we add security at every single building, we added monitors and it all sounds great and it's all wonderful, but, how much can an old number absorb? So when we do 0, we shouldn't be adding, but we
So
do.
what we need to do, if we have to do the increments then, because
But I think when we do 0, people can't come up to the podium and say, I want to add this, I want to add that, and the other thing. It doesn't go together. There's no correlation. When you go to 0, then you don't spend more.
no, I realize we have to.
So if we want to spend more, if we want to keep what we have, after planning to not spend more, it's a tough reality. I get it, I don't love it.
Just a clarification. You're asking for consensus right now to be able to go up to not exceed 4.37. So if the board decided tonight or whenever they have to make their decision by, if they say don't exceed 2.5%, don't exceed 3%, then that's when you would go by.
Yes, it's up to the board. Absolutely. And then ultimately up to the voters.
Right. The 4.3%, 4.37%, what does that convert to as far as an increase to us? Can you tell that now?
And work that up without having an assessed value from the town. Well, then I would have to do it on an estimate, and it would be in the brochure, if you remember, it's at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, standard assessed value around here is around 40, 45.
Yeah, and I always have that program, except last year when it was 0, because it was 0. But
So
yes,
we'd be looking at what, like $200 increase?
Let me work that up for you. And there are gonna be some assumptions in there, such as assessed value of the entire district. The best I can do is to use last year's.
Right.
You know, so many
Yeah.
assumptions like that, but yes, I
But it
I
should,
can give
it
you that.
really shouldn't be too far.
Correct.
From last year.
That's
Yeah.
correct. It'll be reasonable.
Okay, so just to confirm, that if they decided they could tell, this, they could, don't exceed 3%. They could do that, and then you work your budget off of that.
Yes, and they will decide based on what the expenditure budget looks like too.
Right.
And how much fund balance they want to
But
appropriate.
as of tonight.
As of tonight, I'm not, that's not really a commitment that I'm going to use. That's about as casual of a consensus as you can see. It's anywhere from 0 to 4.37.
Right, but they could set that maximum at 3%.
They could, yes.
Oh.
Yes. At any point between now and the budget adoption.
Does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so it's down to.
So I think I'd be comfortable then going with last year's and up to and including whatever you did last year. Not the 4.37, what you said 3%?
Well, what I did last year, meaning what the calculation came to
right.
last year, well, I
Right.
don't even, I don't have it off the top of my head.
It was about 3%, yes.
Okay.
So I'm comfortable saying that.
I honestly can't.
We honestly can't. You haven't seen the expenditures.
For the expenditures, if you want me to say that, I honestly can't say
Well, if
that.
you needed a commitment tonight, that's the only commitment.
Well, again, it's not commitment. The range from 0 to 4.37 is really not.
But a range from 0 to 3% is not commitment then either, then we could change that to at any point, right?
I see. You're setting your.
I don't know, you were setting a number, so that would,
I didn't set a number, you did 4.37, right?
no, I did, the calculation sets the number, but if you were to say 3 point anything,
Oh, we want to
that's
lower
setting
You'd
a
We'd
number.
have to change some of the expenditures if we wanted you to lower, correct?
Correct. And make some tough decisions, yes.
Yes. We could lower it.
Absolutely, yes, exactly.
I'm fine with it.
Spot on.
That's why I can't, that's why for me personally, with the 4.3, until I can see what cuts are made and who's gonna be hurt by those cuts, I can't,
You're absolutely correct.
I cannot.
Which is why I wouldn't say, give me a number.
I couldn't commit to a 3.
So, you know, it's
I
a
couldn't
range.
commit to a 3 and work down from there,
Right.
personally. So I don't think you have your consensus. You want to work on that? Okay, so, Sharon, I don't know what that means to you. I personally, and you're asking me to make cuts before I don't even know, before I even know what cuts I'm making. And I can't cut program, I'm not gonna cut anything blindly, because that's what it's.
Specifically a program, I mean.
Listen, I don't know what I'm cutting, but you're asking, but if I go to a 3 and I agree to a 3 today, you're asking me to cut something today, then I'm blindly cutting, and I don't know what I'm cutting. Without enough information, I have.
But you're telling me now that it's not a commitment, but then you're saying it is a commitment to
You're
do something.
telling-
So I don't know, so I'm
Well,
definitely not
going
getting
to a
consensus.
3 would be a commitment, that's narrowing
and
the
below.
range.
Then it's 3 and below.
Safety
But
net.
maybe
You're saying we could change it.
Maybe something needs to be cut or changed. You know, maybe something does need to be, you know, taken out or changed. We can't say, well, you know, I'll agree to less only if we don't take something out. Obviously, we have to take something out. We're really not at that point yet. I'm just going to
Yeah,
repeat. It's a range from 0 to 4.37. That is a zero commitment. That is, let me not say zero commitment, because I don't want to confuse it with a number. That's a meaningless commitment. It's just saying not to exceed the cap.
We can still say later, listen, we want to try to lower it.
That's absolutely correct.
Yes, that's why I'm not committing to a 3 right now, I don't know what I'm cutting.
Is that what you did last year?
We started out, whatever the max calculation was, we wound up at 0. So you can change it, you can cut things out.
So
It's just a shot to get started, that's all it is.
It's not to exceed.
Right.
Not to exceed.
We're basically telling the controller we don't intend to pierce the cap. That's-
You're exactly
that's-
correct.
That is the intent.
The intent of the reporting to the controller, is that we basically want to tell the controller right now that the board does not have authority, does not want to give authority to pierce the cap, that we're going to stay at or below the cap in the final budget adoption, which comes a month from now.
And we're not locked into that.
So you're,
I need to put
so
it,
what's the wording? Are you saying at or below the cap, are you saying at 4.37? That number's killing me, I gotta tell you, that number's bothering me.
It bothers me too, I'm not gonna say the same, but that's a little high, but it's something to work with. Let's get started, we can move forward if we say, yeah, hey. you know,
exactly.
I believe that was the intent.
Not in stone by any means.
Yeah, that was the
Not
intent.
to exceed the
wording as
line.
at or below the cap, I'm okay.
At or below the cap. I'm glad you said that, Dr. Adams, not to pierce the cap. That's really the point of the reporting at this point. And then when it's finalized, I'll go in and I'll change it. But at least we met our deadline, and the controller knows we're not piercing the cap.
So not piercing the cap,
Which is another way to say it.
all right, I'll go with it, Graham. I'll go with it, Graham. So you have consensus?
You have a consensus. I know it's fine.
Okay, Bob, I believe this portion is yours. Melanie?
Okay, I'll play that. Big no vote.
Good evening, this is our annual report on where we believe enrollment may go next year. We're going to do it building by building, and I'll give you some summary information as well. Starting with Boston, we don't perceive that there's going to be any noticeable change. You notice we have 346 students this year. We anticipate 342 next year. So pretty much status quo at Boston. Cherokee, I'd like to call your attention to a trend that we've seen in the last few years. And what's happening is, you notice in grade 5, the lower left-hand corner, you see over 90 students, 92 students moving into middle school. We anticipate that they're going to be replaced with 69 students. If you look at kindergarten, first and second grade, that's been a trend. Over the last several years, we have held our breath because there have been surges in July and August. We just have not seen them for the last couple of years. But that's always a possibility in Cherokee because historically that has happened. Duffield, we actually see a slight increase, so we're going to we'll recommend breaking out the new section in that building at grade 5 for next year. Idlehour, you're going to see with Idlehour and Pearl, the numbers are pretty static. 213 this year, we anticipate 214 next year, no change whatsoever. You notice the enrollments are relatively low. Same thing with Pearl, 210 down to 208. Because of that, you can't have one class section of 29, so you notice when you see the average class size much lower than some of the other buildings. Slocum, the same thing has happened. Notice in grade 5 you see 66. Moving on to middle school, we anticipate 45 going into kindergarten next year. That's been a trend in this building as well. Sycamore, pretty much status quo, 431 going down to 428. This one is just an FYI. These are under a grant, Universal Pre-K, 147 funded, 147 seats taken. Where you're going to see some substantial change now will be on the secondary level as these lower class sizes, K and 5, start to percolate up to our middle schools and our high school. These are the session cuts, K to 5, only -1 anticipated right now, grades K to 5. Take a look at OBMS. You have 216 students in grade 8 who are going to migrate up to the high school next year. We anticipate that they will be replaced with 174 sixth graders, which is minus 42 in the building. Ronkonkoma, same thing, 233 going down to 209, a minus 24. And you're going to see this trend, we believe, for the next 3, possibly 4 years.
Same amount each year?
Yeah, not quite the same number, but
Right.
a downward trend, yes.
Downward trend.
The high school, 507 graduating this June, 449 coming in for a minus 58. That's very significant. We tried to project out, because we believe it's useful for planning, what might happen over the next several years. And if you take a look at what we're seeing there, we say minus 160 system-wide. Only Duffield and Idlehour gaining slightly. But when you move on to the high school, watch what's happening. Minus 58, followed by minus 39, followed by minus 30, which for a 3-year trend is an almost staggering 127 student loss. So that's the trend as we see it. One of the things I'm fond of saying over here is none of this can be carved in stone, because you can get some surprises, some of them pleasant. I know when Dr. Groveman and I used to talk about what can happen in the long term, you never know if the economy continues to rebound. Do housing prices, for example, in Ronkonkoma look more attractive than houses, let's say, in Dix Hills, and because of that, we get a little bit of a surge in enrollment. But right now, if everything remains the same, this is what we see happening going forward.
So next year, so from this year going into next year, we're losing how many?
About 160, possibly.
And then the year after?
In the year after, we see downward trends. We've been losing an average of 100 to 120 each year. Now, you know, the elephant in the room is, once we start talking those numbers, you have to keep something going on in terms of proportionate staffing. So I don't want the trustees to be surprised if at some point this year going forward, we're recommending, and I hate to say it, accessing teachers. Because if you lose that number of students, you can't get the same number of teachers.
Do you have an idea of what that's going to look like in the number two?
We do know that we have 3 elementary departments, K-5. Those people will not be replaced. We have a science teacher and a load teacher who will not be replaced. We have an elementary administrator who will not be replaced. And our estimate is, once we put everything together, we're probably close to $1 million in aggregate savings. When we get into the excessing, I don't want to get ahead of the curve, because I have to talk to Mr. Goodwin and our superintendent, Dr. Adams.
That is based on retirement.
What?
That's based, the window is based on retirement. Does the board have any questions on that? On the next one.
Great, thank you very much.
Okay, we're moving on to other portion. The section agenda gives the Board of Education opportunity to recognize persons who wish to raise a question or to make a brief statement on the agenda items only. All the topics will be recognized as time allows. The time available will be limited to 3 minutes for one or more topic. Topic should be kept as brief as possible and related to school matters. Step up to the podium and address the board president only, and may address one more topics. Mary Kane will have the buzzer, so when you hear the first ding, you have about 30 seconds to tell your comment. The last ding is 3 minutes. 3 minutes are up.
Just a quick question. Is the district aware, or would you know anything about the housing that we want to build on Sunrise, south of Sunrise and Lakeland, and would that affect any of our schools if they build all the apartments or homes?
So you're referring to the golf course?
Yes.
Okay, so I actually am very heavily involved in that. As of now, that is zoned for E4 homes. So at the current time, I'm actually one of the people who are opposing them to not, get the zone changed. So if it's status quo, only 84 homes can be built on that. So if we kind of need community support support on that as well. I think the community that I've heard so far, they're willing to go up to half-acre homes, currently it's 1-acre homes, that they can build, and possibly to go to a 3rd acre of homes. Again, yes, it's great to bring in families or whatever it is. I think the objective is not to bring in 1,365 apartments. It's kind of routine as a residential, you have the apartments. But as of now, because of there's such an opposition to it, I mean, they're looking, they put a shovel in the ground 5, 6 years from now. There's a lot of opposition to it right now.
My question, yes, I was very curious as to which school, if any of our schools you would say.
That would be Boston.
Because of Boston right now, we would probably, depending on how many houses came in there, we might have to look at rezoning.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, good evening. Just with the increase in the middle schools, is there any increase in the special ed as determined as of yet? Special ed department, the kids enrolling in middle school, will there be an increase in the special ed children? Nobody knows.
Enrollment's decreasing, district-wide enrollment's decreasing, not increasing.
Okay, so
It's proportional generally, that, you know, the proportion of special ed students versus general ed students, it's pretty proportional.
okay, just curious, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, anybody else?
If that's the case that, you know, this much of a reduction in enrollment and maybe even losing some teachers and not replacing all those retirements and things, doesn't that bear on this number as well?
That's one of the factors that will play into what the expenditure budget is, and based on whatever decisions are made as far as staff goes.
Because that sounds like, I don't know, eliminating anything.
That would be
I mean,
an
teachers,
offset
but I
to
mean,
other
programs.
increases. Yes, that's one of the pieces.
Okay, so that's, not to sound hard, but that's
That
in my favor too,
reduces-
as far as that number.
That reduces those expenses, yes. It does.
Anybody else? Okay, we're moving on to recommended action, personnel matters. Okay, so we have terminations, leave of absence. Need a motion in a second? Second? All in favor? We have appointments, tenure, salary, and changes. I need a motion in a second. Second, all in favor? Okay, we're moving on to the consent agenda. We have items 2 through 8. I need a motion, and then we'll have discussion. Motion? Second? Does anybody have any questions?
Or second questions.
All right, on the consent agenda, there's $500 from Alliance Energy. What does that money go into? Just a check for $500, it didn't say where it's going.
It's actually a donation.
Yeah, to where?
It says it's going into the high school supplies code.
Right, so it had a code, I didn't know what that code was. So supplies,
That's the high school supplies code, yes.
Alliance Energy said to donate it to supplies.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, thank you. The copier, another copier for $6,000 a year. Is there really a need for that? I mean, it said something about not using desktops. So, I mean, don't we have central copying for that?
Yeah, so we do have central copying, but this is for 2 offices. And it's been deemed necessary based upon the amount of copies that they're making over. So we get charged a different price making copies over a large copy machine like this one that we're suggesting versus a desktop printer. So I think the desktop printer is between 5 and 7 cents per copy. When we're making it out of the central copy machine, it drops it down to 2 to 3 cents per copy.
Right, but if they have a big load of copies, I know like at the elementary schools, when you have to make copies, you send it over to here, right, and they make both their copies.
This is different, so it's also printing off of the computers. So it acts as a desktop printer. So it's a networked copier.
Okay.
It scans, copies, and prints, and
So they-
also faxes.
So, do we rent them desktop printers too?
No, we purchased those.
Right, so we have those purchased already, so that is forcing us to just simply print from their computer. But if they have a large amount, why can't they send it to central office like everybody else does?
Because it's not a large amount. I mean, I don't know if it's Ms. Santos' department, I don't know if she would like to comment right now. I don't know if we're on.
Yeah, it's just a big expense per year.
This is confidential information, this is information that is part of the.
Can't hear you.
It's confidential data, it could not be shared at central office, it is part of the registration process. So the information is personal to the person and the family packets that need to be copied with the families in attendance during the time of registration. And then we have a high
So then that-
volume between March and November, it's nonstop. So we're exceeding our allocation at the people personnel services end, and in central registration, where the family and the desk are most demanding, I have it in there.
And how much would that save us then? We did it that way?
What kind of warranty on it?
Well, it's the $6,000 includes the warranty per year, includes the manufacturer warranty and all that.
So the monthly cost, I think, is about $120 something. I can't give you an estimate, I can send you a number of how much we anticipate the savings.
Okay, that's what I want to know, the anticipated savings, okay. The number 4, I want to pull for a separate vote still. And then the calendar. Did we talk to CTA and the parents? I remember the last time we talked about the calendar, we were supposed to be asking the parents and having a meeting with the CTA about the calendar.
We asked all the bargaining units,
Okay.
and they all agreed to the proposed calendar.
But we did ask the parents about it. I know there's always been a thing, and knock on wood this year, we haven't had any snow days, I'll knock again. I know there's always been a thing that people are like, okay, we have a February break, and then we get a snow day in March, and then we lose our warm days.
So in this year's contract,
Yeah.
this year's calendar, as well as next year's calendar, we have allocated an additional snow day.
Okay.
So we anticipate that with four snow days, that we should be okay.
So we won't lose the warm days.
I think by saying it out loud, that jinxes us.
I'll knock again. All right.
Adding on a day, you're adding on a day after Memorial Day.
Yes,
It's
so there'll
not-
be,
it's
similar
not
to
right.
this year, will be an additional snow day.
So this year we have the 2, but now the year after we're gonna have the 3.
Okay.
So
And we
this
can
year as
discuss
well.
it.
What? We do have the 3 this year? Not part of the Easter break.
Correct.
Okay, so then that's a nice, very nice long weekend. If we have a session.
Knock on.
And we're open in Memorial Day.
I'm not trying to jinx us then. Okay, and then, I guess the only other question I have, which is not on the consent agenda, can we? I have 3 other questions, but they're not on the consent agenda. So that's it. I just want to pull number 4 for a separate vote.
Actually, no, for the.
Yep.
Can we table it too, actually, because I asked you some questions, you didn't get the answers back to me yet, right?
Oh, I thought you wanted me to say it in the public? I can say it in the public if you'd like.
Oh, you asked them,
Yes, I got them.
got some numbers?
Yes.
Okay.
But do you want me to do that?
I don't care when you do it.
I didn't know if you wanted a separate vote, if you wanted to discuss it then.
No,
or-
let's discuss it. Maybe we don't have to.
So, the cyber liability, insurance coverage, did you want to explain what it would cover? Because I did send material home, but if you're just interested in the numbers, I'll just tell you the numbers, which is fine. The $3 million liability costs about $20,500.
That's the one that's the one now, right?
That was the one that was, yes.
And that's for an extra $3 million,
An
correct?
extra $3 million. $2 million would cost about $19,000, so it does not drop a lot. It goes from 20.5 to $19,000 by dropping the liability coverage by $1 million. So not a big savings there. Dropping it down to only $1 million costs about $15,000.
And the deductible?
The deductible would remain the same at 10,000.
For all three. Can you get a higher deductible, or is that what they stand
That's pretty much the same.
Can we ask them for a higher one?
I gotta be
See if the
honest,
prices
I'm not
will
for
change.
this, just,
Okay.
I talk
I
openly with
understand.
you, because it's a lot of money, and, just correct me if I'm wrong, you said mostly the colleges, the institutions are using, not
A lot of the
high
breaches they showed were higher universities.
So not a lot of,
Yes,
not high schools.
there were schools also, public schools, but the majority of the breaches were at the university level.
Maybe if I saw more go on board, I didn't do the research, enough research, because so,
It's not that.
I'm not ready to say, okay.
It's not that public schools don't have it, it's just most of the breaches were at the university.
Did we find out, Sharon, how many school districts here have that kind of coverage?
Sure.
Can we find that out and then vote?
So you want to take?
I want to table, yeah, I don't want to vote yet, I'd like to table and find that out.
Okay, we are expiring March 1st now. But
So they'll still take
I
this?
know it's very common for school districts to have this coverage.
So
We do have $1 million
That's
coverage
right.
through our general liability carrier. We have $1 million. It's not exactly the same. There are differences in what that coverage that we have existing covers. There are shortfalls that this other insurance would make up for. Like data recreation is only covered up to $50,000 with the insurance we currently have. Whereas with the insurance that is on the agenda, that's up to whatever limit you would choose, $1 million, $2 million, $3 million, versus $50,000. No coverage for media liability, regulatory proceedings, threats and extortion.
So what are the questions you want to answer?
No, one, Sharon, can you actually ask them if they would do like a high deductible, maybe 100,000? I'm really worried about the storm. That if something big got hit, 100,000, we don't pay for 5 years, we're fine. It doesn't seem like it happens now. Nothing's ever happened from what you're telling me.
We have not had an occurrence. We've had this insurance. We just started last year. We went out with a request for proposals, and we took the best coverage at the lowest price.
I'm fine with what you did. I
And
just
now
want-
this is renewal, but we've never had a data breach that cost us,
More
that
than a
would
million.
involve
Yeah.
to access this kind of insurance.
Can you ask them also if we can have it for 100,000?
Yes.
Thank you,
Okay,
Sharon.
well, we're expiring March 1st.
So what happens if we expire, so we won't be covered for a month, and then you're being stated starting April?
Yeah, I'll see about if we can get reinstated. Okay.
So then we're going to pull number 4 to table.
I amended it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
So, no, these are good questions.
Yeah, that's what I want to find out. Why X line is up. I already have that. But she gave me a quick thing. I don't want to spend it out. Unless you want to ask her. Okay. But I did ask her. Thank you. Good man. I did ask her.
2, 3 years, and then there was a motion.
Say that again, Ron?
We got the motion, Martha.
So we're waiting on 238 as amended. All right, 238 as amended. So we're all in favor?
Yeah. Oh, wait, we could vote.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. Can I ask, I know Gail's here right now, so can I ask? I'm okay with this for the kids. And, I just, when they call you, they give you a price. You ever say to them, can you do something better for us?
Yes.
So did you do it with them?
Yes.
Then that's the best they gave us? Because, do you ever say,
The reason I can only have him for 2 weeks is in such high demand. Because he has a commitment, he's worked with us.
he was the guy on,
Correct. During
Okay.
Wellness Day, he's been here for 3 years, but he's very popular. There's so much of mindfulness gentleman that we can afford, and he's in high demand. So he accommodated our schedule, so I can have.
300 an hour, right? Is that what we're paying?
300, sorry?
300 an hour?
300 per section per hour for probably 50 students. The year before, just to answer your question, the year before, it was significantly, it was only a couple of $100 more, $29.75.
I saw it.
But it was an assembly format. And it's hard to conduct a
Still one
interactive-
person, right?
One person, no, he has other people come with him. But for assembly, it's large auditorium setting. So we wanted a more intimate, so there could be interaction between staff and students. So we capped it at 2 classes per. We were able to target every grade level that was identified. We were strategic in identifying the younger babies, and if they didn't get it year 1, then they got it year 2. And no student was left out. The only exception was that grade 5 had 1 extra session. They had no exposure, and I had availability in one of the elementary schools. So, it's reasonable, I know it seems expensive, but,
How many got other people that's got from?
how many other trainers?
Yeah, there's a
I want to say 4, but don't quote me, I couldn't find it. But he's in high demand, but
And
most
it's up to
importantly,
50 students?
our sessions, the first year was assembly based. This year we did up to 2 classes combined, no more than 50 students, so there could be interaction. And as you saw in the video, the staff were participating, the students.
I like it, I'm for kids, I get it. I'm
It
just
was a
questioning.
win-win, I promise you.
I'm not saying it is, I'm just questioning the price of it.
Yes, and if I pursue again, in good faith, I will try to negotiate it.
That's what I like.
At 100%.
Good negotiating.
I have to add to this, because on the assembly program with him, I cannot stand for a mindfulness walk through, I'm sorry. Not in a big auditorium, that was just, the teachers were laughing, I'm sorry. They
That's
were
not what we're
just,
talking about, madam, but I'll take note of that.
that was,
We're talking about the exercise
that's,
activity during
yeah, that's one
wellness.
thing, but the superintendent conference night, I think we should cut that one out.
Thank you.
Really, for 3 parts, that's too much.
Thank you very
That's
much.
too much.
Thank you.
Sorry. We need
Very
something a little bit more useful than meditating. We don't get to meditate in class. Sorry, I had to. That was too much.
For the record, we really enjoyed the mindfulness. Yes, there were a lot of teachers that were quite rude with that, and it was really a shame. But it was enjoyable, and working in the business office, which is very stressful, it actually helped, like, to get that, to get that moment, to be mindful, driving, which today is accidents every day, and I actually tempered myself with some of the tools. So I kind of did enjoy it.
Thank you.
So, Linda, in light of adolescent community, going forward, and that's why I'm like your area, I would like to, I've had quite a few parents reach out to me. Very, very upset, how do we know, how do we identify, and I think maybe it's a good time to have a parent forum to address not only our recent laws, but also to address the drug piece as well. Again, just relating back, I know I keep saying how to do not, I'm how impressed I was by that presentation. One of the things that really, for me, kind of like struck out is it's not that typical child who think is doing the abuse of the carnival or the products or something like that. It can be a cheerleader, it can be a valedictorian, it can be anybody. It's not that on a kid who think that's hanging out in the park after, curfew or whatever. I was wondering if something we arranged for the parents, because again, quite a few called me this week, hysterical crying, very upset, and want to know how do we identify at home, so this way we can work with you guys. Parents can work with you.
Tragic, and thank you for the response. Just to tap on 3 things that you said earlier, but I said one. The addict will not be on moving forward.
I want an invitation.
Excuse me?
I want an invitation.
Absolutely not. And everyone at the dais will have an invitation. So we're moving forward with that. As far as, but it was a very tragic event, obviously. And also it's the first item that's on our next department. Because the staff members that were here today who lived this every day, they have a survey, so committed to students, to lose any child, any person in a tragic event, if this leaves one wanting in question. And we're always looking to improve systems and also skill sets and identifiers. And how do you, we're looking at the trend, looking at the bigger picture, is it something that was missed 5 years ago, 7 years ago? But we also want to protect our staff and not to carry that burden because life happens, life is very arduous, but we are looking at that. So we're looking at that at a staff level, professional development, adequate versus adequate for students and parents in the evening. So you'll get that invitation on the process of coordinating. And then also working in tandem with Dr. Adams. My staff has developed a trifle to enhance parent communication on the subject of substance abuse. So that's going to be disseminated, and we're going to have a parent forum to distribute that at night and to make that part as well. And the subject will be to at-risk indicators and then any connection to substance abuse. I will have that. Okay.
Any questions?
Yeah, there was no all in favor. Aye.
I need a motion and a second to move into executive session to receive advice from our attorney regarding contracts and personnel. Motion? All in favor?
Have to say aye? I'll say aye till 10 o'clock, because
Thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.